Where do I sign up this week?
Right here.
Okay, I'll give you my name. I'll leave it.
Go ahead. You want to shoot chat? I want to.
Public view, right?
I'm going to call on Albert Newman.
Did you get like the part of this your body?
I'm on Richard's What we usually do is we'll take 3 here, and if we have 2, if we don't, we'll come back to you.
You're only allowing 6 people.
We do have to do
I'm not sure. Yeah, because we have an outside radio. If there's a. Yeah. Sorry. As long as there's one representing each speaker, so you have you for your group. You guys are on the how hard is it? How are you? I'm so glad you're here.
Yes. Erwin, and Richard Bob right now, and I just texted him.
So I'm confused because we were all standing outside. We had to for half an hour.
They were the first 3 guys.
No, they weren't. Hold them up and we'll all talk. We're talking outside. You're not gonna. You either just put them down now or we're gonna be. So who else?
Urban, Rosenthal, Paul, Thurman, and Richard Bob.
So Irwin, Paul, okay, Irwin was one, Paul, and who was the other one?
Richard.
So Richard, unfortunately, there are a bunch of us here for like a half an hour waiting to get on public be heard, and somehow you got your name on there before. Oh, so there only one, so you
So
have,
you only want one?
so apparently there's only 3 people allowed on public be heard.
5 altogether, and we take 3 from here and the first 2 from there, unless there is nobody, then we'll add 2 more.
5 minutes or 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
So do you guys mind, since you're together, allowing someone else from the public to speak, since there's only 3 slots in the whole town? Can the 2 of you, instead of taking up 2 slots, can you give up your 1 slot for someone else on public be heard?
We have some very important stuff to say, I'm sorry. I mean, I want to be democratic about it.
Okay, so what do we do? Because I was here out there, standing out in the cold where anyone else was. I also sent an email earlier
We
today.
don't do emails, it's the first
Expanded by
5.
a couple of minutes? Yeah, we just expanded it.
I think that makes the most sense. This gentleman right here has a really good idea. But I guess if not, we're just gonna be silent.
Well. Is that a possibility? Just add 2 minutes?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We'll see. We'll see how the rest of the meeting goes.
We'll try to keep it short. We'll be to the point.
Actually, I'm signing on the Zoom meeting now. Maybe I can just be one of the Zoom people.
Sorry, I got 2 already. Eileen Coppola and Michael Henry.
35 minutes.
I know that. No. Oh, no. No.
Reggie, come on.
You're ready to be just a minute. We have a super microphone. You good?
No, I'm just looking for Jackie. Jackie,
I
are
see
you
her.
on?
Middle of the top. Top middle.
Unmute yourself, Jackie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
So it is 7:06, and we do have our first public hearing of the Water District. You want to read the legal notice?
Let me just find it here. Hold on.
Sorry?
Whereas at a meeting held on October 18th, the Town of Woodstock Town Board scheduled a public hearing for the, which one are you starting with?
The Water District.
With the Water District. All persons may now be heard.
Anybody have any questions on the Water District budget? Anybody?
Oh, correct.
This is public. If nobody's here, you have a question, go right ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that I reviewed the water district's budget, their revenue and their expenditures, and was able to ask questions at the budget hearing and satisfied with as it was proposed and presented.
Anybody in the public, anything? Okay. So I'm going to offer a couple of resolutions. I'll keep them in order. Be it resolved to accept minutes for meetings held on September 20th and October 3rd.
Second.
I have some one particular correction on that.
Whatever it was.
Notice that on and I will send that to the
Jackie.
to the town clerk. I did notice that one of the votes was listed as 302. It should have been 320.
I think
But
so.
everybody's name was correct.
I think, and I think that somebody noted that on the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. And I just have to say, Jackie, I had no updates to the minutes.
Thank
It
you.
never happened.
Be it resolved to authorize payment of ordered vouchers in the amount of $193,700.10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to authorize transfers per transfer sheet.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the water district budget for the year 2023 is $258,375, and whereas the public hearing was held on October 18th, 2022 at 7:05 PM at the Woodstock Town Offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, New York, and via Zoom. On this budget, therefore be it resolved to close the public hearing, be further resolved to finance the above cost of the water district in the following manner: $194,172 in metered sales, $56,506 in meter charges and $5,500 in interest and penalties. $50 from interest earnings. Be further resolved to set a $19 base fee for each meter for each quarterly reading. Be further resolved, the user rate shall be 47 cents per 100 gallons. Be further resolved, the user rate shall be effective beginning December 1st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So being 7:10, we will, Jackie, if you could read the notice for the onsite.
The Town of Woodstock Town Board at a meeting held on October 3rd, 2022, scheduled public hearings for the 2023 budget, Town of Woodstock on-site sewer district. All persons may now be heard.
About onsite districts.
I would just like to add that I had an opportunity to look at the on-site district's budget and the on-site district revenue and ask questions of the on-site district department, and I'm satisfied with all that I've seen in the budget.
Okay.
And I guess I could say the same thing. We did all meet together and I asked, when all three of these budgets were covering tonight, the water, the on-site, the sewer, we did have
I
meetings.
tell you what, I don't mean to cut you off,
Sure.
but if I read this resolution, I know there are a lot of people who want to talk. We could actually do 2 public be heards while we're waiting, and then maybe we could fit more in at the end.
Sure.
Good, okay. Whereas the on-site district budget for the year 2023 is $60,128, and whereas the properties that have on-site systems pay the operation and maintenance costs for their constructed systems, and whereas a public hearing was held on October 18, 2022 at 7:10 p.m. Woodstock Town Offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, New York, and via Zoom on this plan and assessment roll. Therefore, be it resolved to close the public hearing and be further resolved to finance the above costs of the on-site district in the following manner: $128 in interest on revenue, $60,000 on special O&M assessment of those improved properties per Schedule B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're first, so I'm going to give you 2 minutes to come on up. Yes, you've got 4 minutes. I got enough for 2.
How would you like me to address you? Or
Yes, address the board.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you and to make my complaint. My complaint is about the amplified music coming from the station bar and curio shop. I have complained to them. I have called the police at various times. I have been dealt with courteously in all cases. Sometimes there's compliance, sometimes not. But the problem continues, and I feel that the town should come up with a policy with amplified music. It's going to be worse because you have Bearsville coming on, and therefore, let me just read this verbatim. Questions for the town board. I think we should mutually agree that an outdoor is an outdoor venue, and as such, certain limits should apply pertaining to hours, days, use of amplification, service of alcohol, proximity to residences. 2, what constitutes an outdoor event, such as a musical performance? Surely it's a musical event held outdoors. 3, when does such a performance require an event permit? 4, currently only 2 venues routinely hold outside open air musical performances, the Colony and the Station Cafe, with the Bearsville complex constructing one that's expected to open next spring. Do these 3 have special privileges, or should we anticipate more open air amplified sound concerts at other town venues? 5, what rights is the town prepared to defend on behalf of residential owners and tenants? I think I've kept myself within the limit.
You did.
And what's your
Congratulations.
name again, sir?
First name Irwin, IRWIN. Last name Rosenthal. That probably takes me over the limit.
Yes. Mr. Thurman?
Resting for a long day. Nice to meet you all. My name is Paul Thurman. I live in
Address the,
Okay.
you can stay on that side.
I live at 165 Clockwood Lane. I've had a footprint here in Woodstock since I was 16, and I came here with my crazy aunts for the summer. This town is in my blood. I've lived in Bearsville for 8 years, and now my partner, my wife Elizabeth, and I, fortunately, were able finally after 10 years of terrible struggle to buy our dream property, dream home on Clockwood Lane. Of course, we're in the process of renovating it. It's a wreck. We're bringing it back to life, and I really don't want to be here tonight. My hip hurts and I'm exhausted from a multitude. I have to work at my age. Yes, I understand. I just want you to know, I'm here tonight on behalf, I'm a board member for Citizens Against Terror, red and white signs. Richard Buck, another board member, is with me. We have codified our organization. We have an administrative board, and we just got good news from our lawyer tomorrow. We are achieving nonprofit status, which means that you can write us a check and it can go right into our account. No more internet, where's it going, who's got it, all that stuff. I assure you we're above board. 25 years ago, I appeared at another town meeting on Long Island in Hempstead Harbor. I'm speaking differently to you folks because we love you. I was also much more of an aggressive person in those days. And we told them we were going to get them all thrown out of office because of a similar project. We told them that we were going to raise $1 million and battle them to a standstill. It took 8 years. I don't know if I have that kind of tenacity anymore, but you are witnessing right at this moment to begin your counteroffensive. Carpetbaggers have invaded our community. They don't give squat about us. They are going to destroy I was up there myself in my Jeep riding around and probably took a shot at me. They're going to destroy 75 acres of virgin forest.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're asking for the full and total support of our elected officials.
Thank you.
Nothing else will count.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to respond for a moment.
Let's do our public hearing.
But, well, I know, well, I mean, I'm building a list of stuff I need to say, so it's something I'm gonna need to say.
Yeah, let's do the last public hearing and then we can finish the resolutions and have at it.
Okay.
Jackie, if you could read the Hamlet Sewer District.
The Woodstock Town Board, at a meeting held on October 3rd, 2022, scheduled public hearings for the 2023 budget for the town of Woodstock Hamlet Sewer District. All persons may now be heard.
Anyone want to talk about sewers?
I'd love
That's a
to.
lot of money in it.
I'd love to too.
Same thing. I was able to question and review the sewer budget, both its revenues and its expenditures. I was able to ask questions and I'm satisfied with what I've heard and reviewed on this budget.
Well, I get equal time, if I may.
Okay,
Okay, yes, so the board was in the meetings with the onsite, the water, the onsite, the sewer. And we did review, we went through all the revenues, we went through all the expenses, et cetera, et cetera. I would like to take a moment to compliment several people. One of them being Larry Allen and his department, who handles all three of those districts. I would like to compliment the supervisor for his part in building the budget. I would like to compliment Pam Boyle, our bookkeeper, because she does a ton of work for us in making sure everything comes out right. So I do want to say a lot of thank yous for everybody who did such a great job on that budget.
let's throw the clerks in there because they do all the billing and
And they send the bill, yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
and
They do.
receiving for water sewer.
And they send reminders if you're using too much water, that you might have to leave. So thank you, clerk's office.
With that.
Thank you.
whereas the-
Oh.
Thank you. Whereas the Hamlet Sewer District budget for the year 2023 is $318,301, and whereas the public hearing was held on October 18th, 2022 at 7:15 PM at the Woodstock Town Offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, New York, and via Zoom on this budget, therefore be it resolved to close the public hearing and be it further resolved to finance the above cost for the Hamlet Sewer District in the following manner: $280,250 from metered sales, $31,500 from metered charges, $6,000 from interest on penalties, $150 from interest on revenue. Be it further resolved to set an $18 base fee for each meter for each quarterly reading. Be it further resolved that the user rate shall be $1.07 per 100 gallons. Be it further resolved, the user rate shall be effective beginning December 1st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
To move things along, is Kai here?
I'm here.
Trying to get on a Woodstock Wi-Fi.
Are you ready to present your
I am as soon as I get the Wi-Fi password.
Jackie? Step down for a second.
Calling you.
Are you,
Yes.
There she is.
hey Jackie, do you have the
Yes.
the Wi-Fi password?
I'm sorry, do I have the,
Wi-Fi password? Is it Toon Towns or Tinker
it's
Towns?
Hornbeck.
No,
I'm sorry, at the town offices
And Como.
at Como. It's town with a capital T, tune with a capital T, 69 exclamation point.
got that, Kai?
Should I come up here?
Yeah, come on right up here. You can pull up a chair and now are you gonna share the screen?
Yeah, I'm gonna share I was told to share the screen via Zoom so that people online can see it as well.
Okay.
Let me just double check this Wi-Fi though. Sorry to keep everyone waiting.
Hey, Bill,
Yes.
while they're checking the system for their
The seat up front.
presentation, I just want everybody to know the Yankees won the division.
So, I'm sorry?
The
think
Yankees
it's
won
actually
the
that.
division.
Toontown.
Yeah, I think it's actually that. Vice versa.
That sounds right. Can I see it again? Sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jackie. We can't, there's noise in the room here. I can't hear you.
Okay.
That is,
69.
text me what you're trying to say.
How you doing?
Okay.
Checking in this part. No.
Oh, didn't like that? No. T-O-O-N, capital T-O-N, capital T-O-W. You got the two caps in there? Yeah, at first you said town, tune, but I thought it was tune. Town.
Okay.
I don't see this yet.
Trying this one again. Should we try the other way?
Yeah, try the other one.
Oh, where's
I think
Bill?
that was, I think that, I do think that's it.
Bill,
Yes.
Bill wants to talk to Bill.
Bill.
Bill is asking.
Good news, Bill.
Yeah, I
I'll try one more way.
The Yankees won.
Oh, did they? Yes. Not that I'm a Yankees fan.
That's one of the few things that any meeting should be interrupted for.
The important announcement of the night.
Yeah, that's great.
We're gonna try one more way.
Thank you for that
iPhone.
good bit of news, Jackie.
I'm connected to it. Let's see if I have it.
Because you've already were connected to an iPhone? Oh, cool.
Jackie, do you have the legal notice for the public hearing for the ethics law?
I do. Are you ready?
Okay. No, we'll hold off for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I actually didn't get it. It's, I'm doing it. on my phone. Whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Are you trying to share now?
I just joined. Hopefully you can hear me out there. Okay, I think I have it, yeah.
Okay, looks like you're on.
There we go, okay. Yeah, and also unmute myself here. Can folks hear me? Unmute myself here,
Yes,
okay. So they can hear me through these mics.
through, and if you want to just, the mic right there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, well, hopefully you can all hear me now. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry for the inconvenience. Nice to meet all of you. I've been speaking with some of you, Supervisor McKenna and Town Board. Nice to present to you and meet you all and the members of the public. My name is Kyle Wood Farmer. I'm a senior planner with the Ulster County Planning Department. Also just note, I am a former resident of Woodstock, Saugerties area. Used to play soccer right over there growing up. So the community means a lot to me and Ulster County means a lot to me. But tonight I'm here to present on the Ulster County Housing Smart Communities Initiative, which is a new initiative that the county is unrolling right now, rolling out rather. And it's essentially I'll walk you through the presentation and there was a little bit of time for Q&A, I believe. I'll try to make it quick. I know this is a busy schedule. Bring it down. Oh, I see. Oh, it's up there too.
Okay.
I think that's her screen. Yeah.
There is a way, there's a little minus sign, if you click the minus sign.
I did that, but it's on her end actually.
Oh, I see.
Here we go.
I think the supervisor's got it. Yay.
Okay.
Getting so tech savvy.
Good job.
Okay, so what is the Housing Smart Communities Initiative? Maybe by raise of hands, has anyone heard of the Climate Smart Communities Initiative or program? So this is essentially the same idea, but we are taking that climate focused certification program and we've created our own just for Ulster County. So it's essentially a certification and capacity building program that provides guidance, technical support and incentives for all the municipalities in the county who are working to solve the housing crisis that we are all in. So how does it work? Essentially, a municipality joins the program. We've created a really low barrier to entry. And then you are certified at different levels, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, based on a number of weighted, what we're calling housing smart actions, but they're essentially good housing policy that a municipality can adopt. And then in return, we provide technical support through the planning department, consultant services. We are bringing on a bench of consultants to help on various aspects of housing policy, legal regulations, how messaging and outreach, community site design and things like that. And then access to funding from the county as well. And I'll jump into that in a second. We've got a program website that everyone can go look at, Housing Smart Communities Initiative. You can just type that in to Google. You will find it, or you can look on the Ulster County Planning Department website. So just really quick how we got here in 2021, Ulster County created a housing action plan. This is one of the 5 strategies that came out of that housing action plan. That was guided by the county's Housing Advisory Committee. Thank you to Deborah Jawan, who is a part of this process as continuing that for Woodstock and for the county as well. As you'll see in this presentation, Woodstock is in many ways leading the way for the more rural communities on doing good housing policy. So out of that process, we have created the Housing Smart Communities Initiative launching in 2022 in perpetuity, hopefully, until we solve the housing crisis. These are just the members of the Housing Advisory Committee. We're on pause for a little bit right now as we roll out the program, but we're checking back in soon. So as you can see, we've got representatives, elected officials, folks from the private sector, folks from the real estate industry, affordable housing, architecture, community organizations as well. So trying to bring everyone into the process. So really quick, how did we get here? Over the past 10, 20, 30 years, we've seen an increased demand for housing in the county. And at the same time, we've seen relatively limited new supply of housing, and particularly limited in affordable and workforce, middle income housing. We are building housing, but there's a mismatch between what folks can afford and what's getting built right now in the county. We also know from the pandemic, but even before that, construction costs are going up. So construction demand, inflation, pandemic-related restrictions, supply chain, labor shortages, they all add to the increased cost of new construction for housing. And we're floating around somewhere between $300 and $350 per square foot for new construction, which is the highest it's ever been in the county. And then at the same time, we know that short-term rentals and vacation homes, at the same time, there's been an increase in recent years. And as we're trying to build new workforce and affordable housing, that housing stock is getting depleted by short-term rentals. And there's a balance to be had. We are a county that relies on tourism, but we also need to make sure that we can protect our housing stock for our residents as well. We also know in some cases, there's limited community support for new housing. So that can be a barrier. I know the Woodstock Commons is a great project that happened here, but it did take a number of years and a lot of community involvement. And so that can delay the production of new housing. At the same time, development uncertainty can also play a role. So at the municipal level, if things are confusing or delayed or not very transparent, that can delay the review and development approval process, which adds to the cost of housing and the time that it takes to get built. So those are just a couple of the things that are getting us here where we are in this housing crisis. And I mention these because these are some of the solutions. We identified the problem and now we're trying to focus on solving some of these solutions. So I did want to just do a quick snapshot of housing in Woodstock specifically. So rents on average, and I need to double check this data because this was a surprise, have remained relatively the same over the past 10 years, hovering around $1,000. Yeah. Well, my data is from 2020, so this is pre-pandemic. That's why I need to double check it. Yeah. But we do know that the average renter income is much below the county average too. I think it's around 22 to 25% of households are renting in Woodstock. Affordability for rents as well as mortgages is around 30%. That's the target that we are aiming for. That's what the Housing and Urban Development at the federal level is aiming for. But here in Woodstock, 17% of owners and 45% of renters are spending more than half of their monthly income. And that's what we call severely cost burdened. So we know there's a problem. We also know that home prices have increased significantly, especially in Woodstock. So over the past 9 years, we've seen a 125% increase in the cost of homes that are sold. As you can see, from 2012 to 2021, there is an enormous spike in the cost of housing or the sale of a home when it is sold. And then, as I mentioned before, we are building new housing, and this is not for Woodstock specifically, this is for the county overall. There's a mismatch between the housing that is getting built and the housing that we need that county residents can afford. So from 2015 to 2020, the average new home size was 2,245 square feet with a median sale price of $425,000, which is much higher and bigger than the average family size and price range for a household. Okay, so there's a little bit of a snapshot. We know we're in a housing crisis. We all know this, so I don't need to spend much time there, but I wanted to dig into the program. So a couple steps to joining, and we hope that Woodstock does join. So it's a pretty low barrier to entry. All the town board has to do is pass a resolution to make a formal commitment to working through the housing smart actions over time. There's no deadline. Designate a housing smart communities coordinator, so someone who's just serving as a liaison between the county and the municipality as they work through the policies. Form or assign an existing housing group, task force, committee, just essentially someone to be a cheerleader for housing work. I know that Woodstock already has this, so you're ahead of the curve in that regard. And then you just register your community online through our website, and then you are a bronze level certified community. So very easy barrier to entry, and then the hard work begins. So it's not just a certification. We provide a lot of benefits, as I mentioned, technical support, planning, templates, regulations for housing policies and things like that. We're going to be providing training and education for all the municipalities on different policies, and then consultant services in the near future. And some of you may have seen the acting county executive just proposed her budget, which includes $17 million for housing and green growth. And so hopefully that can all be used for this type of work as well. And then on top of that, I believe it's 30 million for capital improvement projects, specifically for things like water and sewer for new housing as well. Well, all types of infrastructure, but just a big round of applause for all the work that you've done so far and the work that you're doing right now. I know there's the zoning code update, the home share program, and you all know about this, the Woodstock Housing Alliance, which is really great to see getting off the ground, a to-be created housing plan that we hope we can help with in the future, the short-term rental regulations, the first in the county to pass those, and then the 2000 comprehensive plan or 2018 comprehensive plan, and the community outreach that everyone is doing to make sure everyone knows about it and is involved in the process. I keep going here. Really quickly, I just want to walk through the housing smart actions. We've got 12 of them so far. We anticipate there'll be more in the future. Based on feedback we're hearing from the community about what's working, what's not working. We've got some categories. I won't go through them, but these are essentially the levers or the mechanisms that a local municipality has in terms of land use regulation and other things that they can do to put their thumb on the scale for affordable and workforce housing. So the first, which Woodstock is already doing, is just doing some housing focused community outreach and education. As I mentioned, sometimes the barrier to developing good housing in a community is a lack of understanding about what affordable and workforce means. Just as a quick tidbit, when we say affordable, the area median income for the county right now is $96,000 for a 4-person household. So when we say affordable or the median income of folks, we're not talking about necessarily folks who are way below the poverty level, who really do need that housing. Of course, we want to support them as well, but this is middle-class working folks that we're trying to lift up as well. So that's kind of the first action that everyone should take. They need to know about the program, not just the general public, but also the elected officials, the planning board to make good decisions. And we are here to support all the municipalities in doing that. The next is creating a housing action plan, which is underway, or some version of it. You don't have to call it an action plan. That's worth 10 points. That's worth the most points. And this is important, one, to make sure that all of your different strategies and policies are focused in the right direction. And then also provide a North Star. So we all want to solve the housing crisis, but we need some sort of North Star in the future, what that looks like for us, whether it's X amount of new affordable housing units built, X% of income going towards rent and mortgages. So you can check in, if you create a plan, you can check in over time and see how you're doing. So that's really important. You don't want to be working in the dark. The next, I'll also mention here, if you as a community have already done some of these things, you will get points retroactively for it. As I mentioned, Woodstock is ahead of the curve. And so you will get points for the things that you have already been doing. We've got some minimum criteria that you need to pass for each of them, but it's a pretty low barrier for this criteria. This is just a map of all the short-term rentals. We've got over 2,500 short-term rentals active in the community right now, with some communities with 10% of their housing stock or more. So we need to make sure that there are rental regulations that find a balance between residents, but then also folks who need to provide that income if they're living in their homes, and then also the tourism economy.
So 2,500 is a countywide state.
That's countywide. Yep, that is countywide, and it fluctuates. There have been over 6,000 unique homes that have been active. The next is supporting accessory dwelling units. So this is a really good way. We want the big multifamily projects where it's appropriate, when it's well designed, but we can also increase the housing stock one bit at a time through making sure that accessory dwelling units are permitted in all residential areas, which I know is the case in Woodstock already, but then also kind of supporting and incentivizing those types of projects as well. I know there's something in the works with accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, there is, because we're working on it. The new code we're working on does focus on that.
Excellent. The next is a pretty easy one, adopt existing real property tax laws. So the state has a long list of property tax exemptions that you can pass as a local municipality. We've chosen 4 that kind of focus on housing. So this first one is turning a commercial property into a mixed-use property. So having some housing as well as commercial. The next is first-time home buyers for newly constructed homes, alternative veterans exemption, as well as capital improvements for 1 and 2 family residential properties. So the municipality passes a resolution to allow these exemptions, and then over a set number of years, 8 to 10 years, you get exempt on your property taxes. So another easy way to incentivize folks to build new housing or update their housing.
Exempt on all property taxes or the increase?
All property taxes, well, it depends on which exemption.
But you can do it different ways, perhaps, right? You might have a 2-year exemption, or you wouldn't have to exempt a property forever.
No, there's a sunset period, which is around, that's that 8 to 10 year period, and it's not 100% of the exemption every year. Starts out at 100 and then tapers off. Yeah, so it's essentially like when you build a new house, you're not smacked with a big property tax bill right away. So those are a couple that are really easy to do. On the website, we have a lot more information about each one of these. And so the next one is establishing rent stabilization regulations. You may have heard this is what Kingston is going through right now with a rent guidelines board. As we all know, there's a massive increase in the price of housing, especially in our county and Sullivan County. So this would essentially create rent control or rent stabilization. And it only really makes sense for a certain number of communities to do this. It's up in the air whether it would make sense for Woodstock to do this because this applies to apartment buildings with 6 or more units that were built before 1974.
Doesn't the state already have some limit to how much you can raise rent? Because the state does have, I thought the state does have some regulations.
There's a couple different ways to do it. You can do it through rent stabilization. There's something called good cause eviction, which some communities have been passing, and that's at a 5% cap per year. But there's different ways to do it. But there is no state cap on rent increases. New York City has a lot of rent control regulations, but outside of New York, not so much. See?
No.
Right here. The next, which Woodstock is also going through right now, kudos, is upzoning or zoning updates, whatever you want to call it. So that is essentially looking at your zoning code, identifying where it makes sense to allow for more residential development, so single family zones to duplexes or triplexes, allowing for ADUs, essentially to use the parcels and land that you've allocated for housing to work better for you. And then at the same time for this one, we don't want to just let loose all new housing because it may not be affordable for folks. So at the same time for this one, creating a mandatory affordable housing requirement or inclusionary zoning as it's sometimes called. So for example, project comes in, 6 or more units, 10% of those units need to be affordable for a certain number of residents. And when we say affordable, let's remember that area median income is $96,000 per year. So even if you put it down to 80% of AMI, that would still be a normal household. Again, these are all optional. It's a choose your own adventure. It's different for rural communities versus urban communities in our county. The next is adopting an affordable housing overlay district. So this is essentially identifying an area in your community where there are transit services, healthcare services, other supportive services, or water and sewer infrastructure, so it can bring down the cost of building new housing. And then, so rather than having affordable housing requirements for your whole community, you can just identify one area that it makes sense to do that in. And we will help you through that process, identifying that area in your community. The next one is streamlining the development approval process. So taking a look at how you review and approve new planning projects that come in, and just really trying to make it as clear as possible what the expectations are of development when it does come in, so that there's not confusion, it's not delayed. If the project is supported by the community and supported by elected officials, that there's an expedited process for those projects. And that can look a lot different in different communities. A couple more. This is a housing sites inventory. This might make sense to do as part of the housing plan, but this is essentially, and I think Woodstock is doing a little bit of this already, but going through your community, identifying either town-owned parcels or privately owned parcels that may be feasible for development of affordable or workforce housing, and then working with the community to essentially create a request for concept. So it's not a specific housing project, but what type of housing would be supported. And then you've got this concept when a developer does want to come in and build good new housing, you've already got the community support, community-led design process. And so you don't have developers coming in and just dropping a site plan on without any community support for those things. And we're happy to help with that process. Next one is adopting a building energy code. New York has something called the stretch code, which essentially creates energy efficiency standards for new housing or major renovations. Utilities are often the second highest cost for residents, and so we want to bring down those costs for everyone. Establish or join a housing rehabilitation program. That's taking, I'm not sure how much there is here in Woodstock, but taking the foreclosed properties or derelict properties and finding funding to rehab those and provide them for first-time home buyers or low-income residents. And then the last one is kind of a catch-all, create innovative housing solutions. And I can go back to any of these if I went too quickly, but this is kind of the catch-all. We can't think of all the ideas. For example, the home shares program is a really great idea that's not in ours, but we want to give you credit for it as well. And so you essentially just have to do a small write-up of what you're doing, why you think it's going to help support housing in your community, and then you'll get points for it. On the website, we've got like a couple ideas, like a community land trust, which Woodstock is also doing already, or looking at tiny homes and how that can work into your zoning code. And then just any innovative housing solution that you can think of. That's the certification level, 10 points, and then you move on to the next certification level. This is kind of like gamifying it and making it fun, but really at the end of the day, we just want to support everyone in doing a good housing policy in the county. And, oh, I don't have the website up to give you a tour, but you can look Housing Smart Communities Initiative, as I mentioned, Google. And thank you very much for your time. Yeah.
So I'll start off with the board. Is that? does the board have
Are
any
these
questions?
charts on that website?
The
What you
slides.
showed us today, yeah.
Yes, I can share it with town board and everyone. But it's also,
I'm sorry, whichever.
Sorry, we'll send it to Jackie early.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we have a non-Woodstock specific version that will be on the website, but we'll give you the
Woodstock version.
The Woodstock version.
Tailored version.
Yeah,
Put it on the Woodstock Housing Committee, Facebook and page as well.
sure.
Any other comments from the board?
I just wanted to say thank you very much, and I do look forward to reviewing it. I know that the work that you're doing is fantastic. I look forward to finding out what the county money is. I know that that's a real new thing, and we would love to be a part of getting our hands on that for the solutions that you propose, and for some of the solutions that are already on the table here with the hardworking Housing Oversight Task Force and Housing Committee. So thank you.
We actually already have put in one grant for our water district, which I'm told we received. I think
great.
they're preparing contracts, so hopefully in the next month or two, we'll have more information on that. Does the board, is the board prepared to join the initiative? Should I prepare a resolution for our next meeting?
Well, I would like to ask, we have representatives from Housing Oversight Task Force and Housing. So leaders of those, I don't see Kirk, who's a leader of both, but I see Deborah and Susan. So you would be supportive of us.
Yes,
Moving
we
in that direction.
actually have a draft of a resolution based on what's required. And the committee is looking at it this week, and we'll be happy to get it to you. at the end of the week.
Perfect,
Then I'm yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
So everybody else is comfortable.
I know your Raina
Excellent.
does hope to say something.
Yeah, I'm just want to ensure the board.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Okay.
good.
Members of the public, any questions, comments? Raina?
So I was gonna say, hi, we've been working with you for a bit and you came to a housing committee and did the same. But just to be clear, our suggestions and what we've been asking for with the home share program, with the town owned land and the ADU program is all completely in line with this whole program.
Absolutely.
I know you've been a part of it from the beginning, and so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But everyone else who's new to the program or new to this is what we've been doing for 3.5.
Yes.
We'll
And
probably
when-
get to our silver status pretty quickly. I think we'll bypass bronze where I'm already at silver.
I think probably, but I do want to say, and speaking of, you guys have been doing work for years, as you say, 3 years, 3.5 years, very long time. And you know, progress, you guys had a great vision from the start, but the momentum you're building is fabulous. And Housing Oversight Task Force, I know we're well on our way to doing the zoning piece of it.
Okay, I'm just gonna jump to Iris first, because she did have her hand
No,
up.
I just want to find out when we're gonna get to the 7:30.
We're just gonna wrap this up and then we'll go into that here. Right.
So I just want to say, you know, what's really great about this is that we've been working, obviously as volunteers, to have the support and expertise from the county planning department that's aligning with, our goals, are actually been feeding to some extent what the county developed. I mean, I was on the council and we had a very active group. And so a lot of this stuff has really come through. We want to make sure that it's community specific. So this isn't the county imposing, it's our coming up with our solutions that fit our community that fit under this larger umbrella and then getting credit and support for doing it. And hopefully this is an ongoing process and initiative. So the housing committee has supported this. We are working on a resolution and we hope that the county will support it.
Can I just add to that really quickly? Just because Woodstock is doing such great work too, it's also an exchange, knowledge exchange between communities too. There are a lot of communities similar to Woodstock that also are just not as far along in this type of work. So I think there's a real opportunity to share what you all are doing with other communities.
So maybe Deborah, we can get them to give the community the tax a little push.
Well, that's one option. And then we're learning that there are other kinds of ways that the town can have funds dedicated for housing needs. And we look forward to talking to you about that.
Excellent,
Yeah, new ideas come, just in case, that's something else in our back pocket.
Yeah,
excellent.
and I just want one more question for Pat. So my question is, so this is a countywide initiative. Are there other counties doing similar things? Are you at the county level interlocking with other counties across the state?
Yeah, so this is the first Housing Smart Communities initiative that we have heard of, similar to this, the Climate Smart Communities program, and we're kind of proud of that and trying to show it to the state to provide to other communities. But yeah, we're in touch with Greene County, Dutchess County, other similar counties like ours on what they're doing. And Dutchess County just created a housing reserve fund or a housing trust fund. So that's something else that we're looking at, which is similar to provide more money for this type of work. But yes, in short, yeah, we're talking to Tompkins County where Ithaca is, similar area.
Yeah, two things. First of all, is the county looking to standardize or more uniformize building codes and zoning laws or not?
New York is a home rule state, which means that each individual municipality has land use authority over their zoning and land use regulations. We can provide support and guidance, but essentially it's ultimately up to the individual municipality to create their own.
And one more thing.
And if I could just add, and with the building code, it's New York State
Yes.
building code. It is uniform.
Okay.
And you can
It
make
may not necessarily be uniformly applied from town to town, but it
State code.
but it is a
I know
uniform.
plumbing and electrical is probably state.
Yep.
But then there's other things that are more municipal.
Well, zoning for sure.
Zoning, but not with the building code.
I'm thinking more like what kind of facade a building has, stuff like that.
So that isn't addressed in the code. That's autistic. Or, yeah.
Well, CCD will weigh in. Part of the process is CCD weighs in certain cases.
And your second question for?
Yeah, the other thing is, you said this was more geared towards middle-class people, working-class people. Is the planning board of the county looking at doing things housing-wise, especially for working-class people, some of whom may soon fall into the houseless or homeless category?
Yeah, this program is really focused on municipal policy and mechanisms that they have. The kind of supportive housing, emergency housing piece intersects, but that's not our main focus. We do want to support those types of organizations and that type of work, but folks like Michael Berg and Family of Woodstock, and so we interact with them a lot, but it's not necessarily the focus of this program.
Yeah, though I see some things that could help, like cottages and.
Yeah,
Tiny
right, like
houses
tiny
and stuff
homes
like
or, yeah, supportive housing. getting community support for things like new.
Accessory units.
Yep. And then also building community support for citing new supportive and assistance mechanisms.
Yes.
A little bit more about community land trusts.
Yeah, so I am not an expert, but essentially like what a community land trust is. So community land trust, essentially, when you build affordable housing, it's a required deed restricted for a certain number of years, 10, 20, 30 years. But then after that, it can become market rate housing. So the idea of a community land trust is to create affordable housing that exists in perpetuity, so forever. And they do that by you separate the house from the land that it sits on, and you create a 99-year ground lease for the land that you sit on. So it reduces the overall value of the house. We're getting pretty wonky here, but essentially the community land trust owns the land that it sits on. And when someone wants to resell that house, there's a resale formula. Part of the equity that's built and sold for the house goes to the community land trust, and then part of it goes to the homeowner as well too. So.
Well, I'm moving back home
Uh-huh.
after living away for a few years. I was living in Rochester, and it seems like their community they have a wonderful community land trust that seems to be serving them really, really well. So I'm just curious to learn more about that and like.
Yeah.
That's kind of a benefit.
Yeah, I think essentially it's trying to create affordable housing in perpetuity, but it can do other things like housing rehab, rental properties, home rehabilitation. Woodstock Housing Alliance is the first in the county. And then Kingston, there's the Taproot Community Land Trust, which is starting in Kingston, but it's going to be countywide. So there's 2 right now in the county already, and hopefully more.
Okay. Michael, last question.
Does the town board have a designated liaison for the housing initiative?
Deborah Devine.
Thank you.
So anyone in the community who's got input or questions or wants to interact can contact Deborah?
We're gonna, so Michael, we're gonna set up a really good way. So, to make it work for communications with everybody so that we, just as we have with the zoning update page on the website. And there's an email where people can send comments and stuff like that. So it's a work in progress.
So, but you're interacting with the county planning?
Right.
You are.
I am.
Well, Deborah's on the housing committee. She's on the housing oversight task force. She's interacting with the county. So Deborah's like got 500
I'm
arms.
just trying to figure out who the
Yeah.
players are here. So-
Yeah.
There's the play.
Deborah's everywhere.
No, but, and without people like Susan, Bowman, Lorena, Kirk, Catherine, everybody else is involved.
Incredible team.
So
Team.
we're trying to set it, that's why I say it's a work in progress in terms of how we can communicate, but we want to make sure that people are heard and people get information.
We're always looking for volunteers as well.
Yes, we do. So,
With that, I'm going to move on to our next public hearing. Kai, thank you so much.
Mhm.
This is great. I look forward to joining. Recommendations with regard to
yeah.
a
I feel
resolution.
like it. Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yes.
Paul, sorry for the delay.
No worries at all.
Jackie, if you could read the notice for the public hearing for the ethics law? Excuse me.
The Woodstock Town Board at a meeting held on
For tonight?
On.
Yes, at the end of the meeting. It's normally at the end of the meeting.
end, yes.
We took a couple in between while we were waiting.
Go ahead, Jackie.
But it's at the end.
Thank you.
the Woodstock Town Board at a meeting held on October 3rd, 2022, scheduled a public hearing for October 18th at 7:30 PM in the town offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, and via Zoom to hear comments on the proposed amendment to Chapter 71, the Ethics Law, Town of Woodstock, New York, amending the section of that law. All persons will now be heard.
I'm going to first ask chairperson of the Ethics Board to come up and give us a brief overview of the amendments that we're talking about here. And then the public can weigh in. Thank you, Paul, for being patient.
No troubles at all. And thank you for having me. And thank you for your support of the Ethics Board. I don't have any gamification. I don't have frequent flyer levels tonight, but I do hope that the town can certainly be a gold and even platinum when it comes to ethics, because I think, it's having town employees, town officials, and town volunteers behave in an ethical manner is absolutely critical to having trust in our local government. And the ethics law, for those who aren't familiar with it, really helps do this in a couple ways. It sets a standard of conduct that basically helps people to avoid conflicts of interest. And we on the Ethics Board help to administer that in two ways. First, we receive complaints from anyone in the public who might have some complaint about someone who serves in an official or volunteer capacity if they've acted improperly. And second, we process annual disclosure forms and forms that are submitted when people take on a new role. So we both answer complaints, we answer requests for advisory opinions, and then we monitor disclosure forms, which are a way of detecting whether there are these conflicts of interest. So there are 5 types of changes that we're proposing to the ethics law that before you, and it has unanimous support of all members of the ethics board. The first is quite straightforward. In fact, they all are fairly straightforward. The first is to codify the shift in responsibility for the paperwork, moving from the town clerk's office to the town supervisor's office. That's something that the town board approved by resolution last June. This codifies it, puts it in law, and I would say it's working. What we've got now is working well. It's really tricky to have it with the town clerk's office because they got the disclosure forms at the same time they're processing the annual tax forms. And it was just kind of our tax, payment. So it's just a lot of work. So it's working very smoothly. That's one change. A second change is to the membership of the ethics board. It's bringing in compliance with state law, which is kind of a good thing. It used to say that a member of the ethics board had to be a town officer or employee. That's not required by state law. It may be. So that makes it permissive. Third thing we do is we make certain nomenclature changes. We just call them disclosure forms instead of annual disclosure forms because you might fill them out separately throughout the year. That's the third thing. I think the 2 more important changes that are being made, one relates to confidentiality. For the first time, we've included a provision in law that says that all the work that's done by the ethics board can't be shared with the public. And that confidentiality provision applies to us on the ethics board and everyone else. So, and if there's an inadvertent disclosure of some matter that goes to the ethics board, you got to let the ethics board know about it. Then the final change is the most important, I think, in some ways, which is under the current law, it's kind of unclear who's actually covered by the law, which is tricky because the way it currently works is the law defines town employees as people who are paid, who are officers, who are also volunteers. That's fine. But it excludes from that volunteers on boards that are only sort of advisory in capacity, who don't have the power to implement their decisions. Now, that would actually technically exclude the ethics board from our own law, which is ridiculous. So we think that everyone should have to abide by the ethics law, and that makes sense. So no one can have conflicts of interest, no one can accept bribes, no one can engage in nepotism, all that sort of stuff. What it separates though is it says, okay, so everyone's got to abide by the law. But does everyone have to fill out these frigging disclosure forms? Not necessarily. The presumption is that you do, but the town board or whoever else is appointing a town committee or something can say, you know what, that's a hassle. You don't need to fill out this disclosure form. So it gives you a little discretion in doing that. That's really the whole set of changes that we'd like to see implemented.
Paul, before I open up to the public, I just want to say that I know it's taken a while, but I enjoyed the back and forth because this did go back and forth.
And I just directly with Paul, we had a great conversation, made some changes.
So it really was, government I mean, maybe not its best, but certainly
Yeah.
very close.
Not as fast, not as
Thank you.
fastest, but still excellent.
Right.
No, thank you,
Excellent.
and thank you for your engagement, and to Laura as well, and to the other members of the ethics. Board.
Yeah,
Iris,
everybody-
York,
Absolutely.
Ellison, Dot, Neil Ratner, this has been a really collaborative effort, and it's gotten better.
Are you one man?
Yeah, we have one space.
Okay. Anybody want to join the ethics board? Let me know tomorrow.
You can get platinum cert status. No. You get 5 miles, yeah, whatever.
Does any member of the public have any questions, comments, concerns, issues?
Because I know that's.
On the
your area.
ethics.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I guess I'm just curious, because you were saying that there's a provision for confidentiality, but I guess in my. I guess I would be concerned about that, because I feel like I appreciate government that's transparent.
Oh,
Especially like if someone launches a complaint where they feel like it was an official or an employee that did something that was not cool.
I know,
I would
this
like
simply
any
means that,
transparency.
so it's a great question, and to clarify,
Okay,
just
thank you.
because there is a public hearing process that
Right.
you can get to.
Great.
But if someone submits a complaint, often they want it to be anonymous. They
I
don't want people to know
Sure.
that they're a whistleblower, basically.
Got it.
So this means you can't go around blowing the whistle on the whistleblower. If it gets to the point in the process where there's gotta be a public hearing,
Yeah.
that's all I
Okay.
deal with.
Good, good,
There's,
good.
yeah, and
I
there's
just-
nothing that prevents the person who submitted the complaint from telling the whole world. But if the person who submits the complaint wants to keep it confidential, we keep it confidential unless it's.
So it's specifically on personal.
Exactly.
Got it. Thank you.
You know, one of the other
That's
things
a great question to clarify.
is period, so when the disclosure forms go out, they're supposed to come back in a sealed envelope,
Yeah,
written to the ethics board. And I can tell you, one of the frustrations is that you get them and they're open, or it's not, it doesn't say ethics board. And now all of a sudden, the town clerk or now the town supervisor's office, is open, oh shoot, it's a disclosure, and we stuff it back in. But there may be a minute when we look at it. It's to make clear that we are bound to be confidential.
Yeah.
Should anything accidentally be seen.
That's exactly.
And then, well, it's usually Iris that comes and picks them up and will say, Iris, it was open, sorry, we did see it, so.
Yeah, because the disclosure forms will have potential information about your investments or something like that, and so we don't want that to get out.
And Alicia?
Yeah. How does making a disclosure form filling out, how is making it discretionary or not mandatory, like helping to keep ethics?
Well, it's because sometimes, and Bill can tell you this, that, there may be some group that you've just appointed for a few weeks to tackle a particular discrete project, right? And it's limited time, limited jurisdiction. And by the time they fill out the form, they may have disbanded. So not everyone needs to.
And no authority to,
Yeah.
no power to do it.
But the default, good question, the default position is everyone fills out the form.
Right.
So you'll have transparency. If the town board says, no, these people don't, but it's a committee that's been appointed to do something really sensitive, then that would raise a question.
Yeah, there are many boards that have their own independent, they make their independent decisions. Planning board, they get a case, they make an independent decision. ZBA makes an independent decision. They definitely need to fill out the ethics form because they are not advisory. We have some groups that are just advisory, and it's the town board that makes the decision. So whether a group is advisory or not advisory can be a key decision maker of who is required to fill
Yeah,
out.
but now it'll be, everyone will fill them out unless the town board.
Correct.
Yeah.
And any boards mandated or created by town law, which is the state's law
Yeah.
for the towns, is bound to fill these out. For instance, a
Yeah.
planning board. the zoning-
WC.
And what this does is creates a really clear record of which boards need to fill out the form and which don't. When it's been right now in the law, which says, is it advisory or not, there's a real debate about it sometimes, so this clarifies. Yes.
Thanks. I really appreciate the clarity of your presentation. Thank you very much. I only have one question.
Sure.
And it's about this question that was just asked. It says that exempted from filling out the form in writing at the time that the entity is established or by subsequent action by appointing authority.
Correct.
By appointing authority, do you mean
This by the town board.
Do you mean by the town board or do you mean by the supervisor? Because the supervisor often appoints
A task force.
appoints a task force and the town board does not.
Right.
So then the supervisor could exempt that task force, whereas the town board would then not have a say in that.
Yeah, I mean, that would be up to the town board. Obviously, if the town board then wanted to weigh in, the town board could weigh in on
Would it not be better to have by action of the town board, as opposed to by action of the
it.
appointing
So the
authority?
appointing authority, that's really up to you all. I mean, it's as to who should make the call, but if, you know, but I'll leave that to you all.
Thank you.
But we do think it's good to have it clear, one way or the other, right? And so that we're not struggling as we have.
Reggie, any questions? Laura?
But it's something, I just want to say a great thank you, Paul, to you for leading the ethics
Oh, sure.
committee for so long, ethics board, and all ethics members. I want to thank the clerk's office who for so long did those
Yeah.
non-disclosures. And it is more streamlined for the supervisor's office to do it because they know someone
Yeah.
gets hired mid-year, they
Yeah.
know that, right? So some of these things just make more sense. So certainly thanking the supervisor's office for picking it
Yeah,
up,
exactly.
but all that everybody's done.
Great, and
Make it
just,
happen.
we do submit to the town board an annual report on our work, so look out for that at the turn of the year. And then the final thing I'd say is we do stand ready to help the town board and town in general as we are seeking to make sure that we've got employee population, people of trust in and so forth, and that everyone's abiding by the highest standards of ethics. To the extent that you want to do more in the way of education and programming and things like that, that, you know, help train people in ethics, let us know. We're happy to be assistance. Okay, thanks.
You know, maybe I'll put you in touch with Pam and Lynn, because
Yeah.
they do an annual training.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, we change it up a little every year, and maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I
throw
think
some
just making people familiar, because we do get a lot of times where people think something's a violation of the ethics law, when actually it's a handbook issue. We've seen that a
That's a
lot.
good- that's a good-
That's a big one. And then the other thing is, you know, just sensitizing people to the whole point of the ethics law is to make sure that people are always acting in the town's best interest when you serve on the town board or when you serve on the committee or something like that, that you don't have some other personal or financial obligation. Just making people sensitive to that is something we'd be happy to do.
Before you go, Paul, I went through everything. Maria Lynn, did you? Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Paul.
great. Thank you.
So I move to recess the hearing to the,
I have just one more question.
okay. go.
Okay, so I've, in the past, not here, in another space, I have seen folks sometimes use complaining to the ethics board in things that are kind of like twisted political strategy.
Oh, I would never.
So I will just say one thing.
You're here.
No, it would never happen in Woodstock. No one would have the ethics complaints as politics by another means, right? No, but I would say one thing.
Seems like not.
Actually, but it's not. And what I'm really proud of the work of this ethics board is we're required by law to basically be bipartisan, and we are in fact nonpartisan. And we have been administering the law now, this current cohort, for about 8 or 9 years, and you don't see us on the front pages because we are scrupulously applying the provisions of the ethics law in a neutral manner and not being used for anyone. Well, whatever you give us, we'll look at it straight on, right? But I think it's a board you can trust.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to recess the
Second.
public hearing to the call of the chair. In favor?
Aye.
You know, I'll just say, as someone who's maybe been a target of a couple of investigations, I can say that my experiences before the ethics board have always been professional, courteous, and dealt with in an appropriate manner. Okay, got a few more resolutions to go through. Whereas Walker Architectures reviewed the low bidders for each of the 4 prime contracts, and whereas Walker Architectures finds the bidders to meet the intended scope of the project, and whereas the total bid cost is under the project cap, therefore be it resolved to accept the following bids. General Construction, One Way Construction Services, Inc., P.O. Box 367, West Hurley, New York, for $1,885,727. HVAC, DJ Heating and Air Conditioning, Inc., 1409 Route 9W, Marlboro, New York, for $428,000. Electrical construction, CDE Electrical, Inc., PO Box 204, Cairo, New York, for $368,000. And plumbing construction, S&O Construction Services, Inc., 11 Charles Street, Pleasant Valley, New York, $195,675 for a total of $2,877,402. And be it further resolved, the supervisor is authorized to sign said contracts.
Second.
Discussion.
Discuss.
So I continue to ask that we see from SHPO that they have reviewed the glass wall. I know that Walker Architects has sent that to them, but I have not seen this. And when I spoke to the town historian today, he had not seen from SHPO either. He did let me know that you had a communication written from SHPO that said they had approved and looked at this.
No, they didn't approve. They had received it.
That they had received it.
And you were on that. He sent that out either yesterday or today.
No, I saw that today that
and they have received it.
That they've received it. I would rather that we wait for SHPO to review that glass wall design before we move forward. I have no questions about the bidding or the contracting, but I continue to want to see the clarity of SHPO's approval of the glass wall before we approve these contracts. I am certain that we all agree that what we want is the historical preservation application to be strong. And so I am interested in seeing that before we move to approve these contracts.
Okay. Well, the bids are only good for 45 days. Don't know how long SHPO is going to take to move forward, but I would recommend that we move forward. Nothing is going to change within the contract based on SHPO's decision. If they come back with a different design, there'll be a change order, which will actually be less money because it's reducing the work up there. So I would recommend we do move forward and we continue, and I ask that you stay on top of that to continue to make sure that they're satisfied with the final design of that connection.
The town historian is really unwilling to proceed with the application until he is certain that he has clarity that SHPO has seen the glass wall design and that the glass wall design is going to be met with approval. It's no guarantee, and it's not about the contracts or their pricing. It's about the historical preservation status of the building that we're in right now. So I would say that we should table this until we do hear from SHPO. I know that they have received it, and I think that we can press them and that we will have time within the 45-day window to receive back from them some guidance.
Okay.
I would move that we table this.
Well, again, I don't see how signing the
I
contract.
second table.
All in favor of tabling the motion?
No.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can I
And
get
Beth, I ask that you continue to stay on top of that with SHPO to make sure that.
Can I get a vote on
Yeah,
that?
Jackie has questions.
Jackie?
I can't, everybody's talking. I don't know what the vote was. So
So
to
to table the motion was two ayes and 3 nays, and to sign the contracts was 3 ayes and 2 nays. And I can give you the names tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks.
It was Bennett and Maria, right?
Yes.
The nays and the ayes for the table.
Thank you.
Be it resolved to schedule a public hearing for the 2023 budget for November 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the town offices, 45 Como Drive, and actually, it won't be via Zoom that day because the ZBA meets and will be Zooming. Be it further resolved to authorize the town clerk to post said notice in the town's official newspaper.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the town of Woodstock has received funding from the federal government through the American Rescue Plan, whereas the town must follow certain prescribed guidelines with regard to the spending of those funds, and whereas the town is permitted to provide funding for housing-related projects, and whereas Family of Woodstock is implementing a home sharing program, therefore be it resolved, the town authorize a one-time payment of $35,000 I left off to Family of Woodstock to support this program.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Sure.
So I understand that the initial one-time payment that was requested was $50,000. And I understand that the housing committee has revised their request to be $35,000. And I know that there was a $15,000 payment that was made at one point for this year. I don't understand why we wouldn't want to have the initial one-time payment be $50,000 because it would be for the upcoming year. I'm confused as to why the amount has been reduced.
I'll let Susan Goldman talk to that because the 35 is what the group came and asked us for. Susan?
Yeah, the formal request that we made was for 35 because we're further along than we were. And I was just gonna look to see, I don't remember if the initial, that the $50,000 was a request or it was something that we were told would be available.
No, that was promised actually in the first year.
I'm saying, I don't think we requested.
Well,
No, you didn't request.
just to be clear, $50,000 was requested for housing initiatives. I'm ready to give it all to housing. But within the three programs you've suggested.
So as we've gone along, sort of looking at this process, reviewing, then it sent out the guidance, we began to look at what the guidance was and begin to think about more in detail about what would meet the guidance for the ARP funds. And also the Housing Oversight Task Force was moving along and our strategies began to shift and we had these three areas that we wanted to move in. Building, as we've heard and we know, is very expensive. And so the hard costs of building became something that if we could utilize this one-time money to help accomplish some hard building costs, that was something we wanted to do. So that we looked at each of the organizations came up with their own plan. But what the housing committee looked at was how this would accomplish housing in the town. That was our goal. And so we looked at all three and we weighted them in terms of the funding, the way we thought they should go. As I explained in the letter that I sent yesterday, I revisited it with the committee. The committee wanted to hold those apportionments the way we had discussed. We didn't create the budgets as a committee. But the home share is about to make a couple of matches, we hope, in the very near future. We're getting very close. And we feel that really puts us in a much better position to go for foundation funding, local foundations for to keep up with what we need. So that was why, I mean, we didn't put in a formal request for 50.
Right. Thank you, Susan.
I'm certainly amenable to do a $35,000 payment, but if you don't receive those grants that you say are prospective and you don't get those monies that you do believe that you are going to ask for, I do believe that another $15,000 would fully be warranted. The home share program is unique in that it isn't driven by building costs and it isn't driven by waiting and it isn't driven by zoning. It can happen immediately and it can happen right now. And so that's why I would be wanting to put $50,000 to it. But
I actually agree with you. Except for one caveat, I would say, let's see how your funding comes in. And if you don't get certain funding, take a look at the 3 programs and come back to us with another request.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with Bennett on that.
Yeah, if you want to call it.
And I just, as a part of the
Right.
housing committee, and to give a little context here, we did 9 to 11 months of research, and the research showed that there was no one silver bullet. We're not treating that like a silver bullet. We have a bunch of initiatives. We worked really hard for over 3.5 years, as Maria Elena knows and has been following along, that there's all these different initiatives are together creative solutions to the housing problem. It's not gonna be one thing. We don't wanna take all the money and put it in one pot. We need to work on all of them at the same time. They need to move forward. And as you saw in the last presentation with Kai, these are all in line with what we're doing there.
I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, if I could just make one comment too, is I think what the American Rescue Plan, the board, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think nobody's going to disagree, that housing is so important and certainly the lion's share of money will go there. And as Supervisor pointed out, yeah, as things evolve and you know where you need it, starting here with the $35,000, I think is the right idea. And then as you need more, I don't know anybody on the board that's not going to say yes to supporting programs that you're bringing forth.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, I did not.
Only because last year we discussed this, it's $100,000, 50 for our home share, don't cut me off,
So that-
please. 100,000 for housing and 50,000 for home share. That's what was promised.
Actually, that's not true, but.
No, it is true,
Okay.
but I was there.
Leah,
Yes,
you're
so was I.
our liaison, really?
Yes,
This
but
is what we're requesting now, you're our liaison.
Yeah. Be resolved to move the November 8th town board meeting to November 1st and to start at 6:45 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The reason, just to be clear, that we're starting at 6:45 is that we're going to go into executive session for the first 15 minutes to interview a candidate for one of our volunteer boards. Then at 7 o'clock, we'll start the meeting in public. And the agenda for that night will be to discuss and hopefully adopt a preliminary budget. We've met with many groups. We're meeting with our last departments and groups on Friday. And so.
Yeah, Reggie and I have a little news. So we may need to start the executive session earlier than 6:45 because the police officer, it was the second officer that we need to talk to later. Because he's going to phase 2 of training and needs town support to get to phase 2 of training, it would make sense to have his official interview be November 1st as well, because that interleaves in with when he has to have an answer to be accepted for phase 2 training. So.
Right, his phase 1 ends on the 13th.
Okay.
And then phase
Well,
2 starts on the
we
15th.
can make that adjustment.
Right, so talk with Clayton, because I believe Clayton will formalize the request. So we will probably be starting this executive session earlier than 6:45.
Next up is council member updates. Laura, I hate to do this, but I'm going to turn the meeting over to you because I need to go deal with an issue with my parents.
Oh dear, okay, I will be happily handle that. We have no more
Okay.
resolutions.
No,
We
thank
have,
you.
okay, and I'll be asking if anybody has any public.
Yes, and we did 2, so we had 2 more.
Okay.
Or as many as you want.
As many as you want, okay. All right, Laura, Ricky, Jackie, I got it.
Thank you.
Okay, so town board updates, you want to start at this end of the table or this end of the table? Who's raising their hand first?
Sorry.
Yay, Maria, thank you, Maria.
So we are still in the process of trying to get an estimate for installation of the dishwasher at the community center. I asked the supervisor this morning what the status of that was, because we've been waiting to find out who he plans on working on this. He said he was trying to get a hold of a plumber electrician. So I got the name of the company and I'm gonna be on top of it now because I want to try to expedite this.
Yeah, and thank you for your
Weather's
work.
starting to get cold, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah,
your
I mean,
work.
we just don't want to start in the middle of, you know.
In January or something.
Even if we can just start something so folks will be able to attend for a while before the weather gets really cold. It's just a wonderful service for our seniors. And, you know, it helps not just providing them a meal, but socialization time as well. So that's what I'm working on there. And then I know STR recommendations were in. We're also going to be speaking with the Housing Oversight Task Force about that. So that's an ongoing process with that. Also, with home share, I know that Susan had said that there's a couple of people that are almost ready to be placed. So I think that's wonderful, and some certainly more sustainable way of, you know, and more means immediate needs for people. So while building is important, I think, you know, also getting people placed sooner than later is also very important. So
Cool. Thank you. Bennett, would you like to go next?
Sure. I've been spending most of my time in the past 2 weeks viewing the town of Woodstock from the perspective of what can we do in the face of the growing climate crisis. And the signs are everywhere. There's been a wildfire in Ulster County. Water quality is in decline in our neighboring towns. There's wildlife roaming dangerously on the roads and towns looking for food. There was a crippling ice storm here necessitating both the Red Cross and the National Guard to set up shelters for those without heat or electricity. Skyrocketing energy costs, driving inflation. These are all part of climate crisis. Looking for solutions, I have met recently with town board members, volunteers, people on commissions and committees to find collaborative solutions. With the Woodstock Environmental Commission, I spoke to them about their 2023 budget proposal, but I also talked to them about long-range planning. And we discussed a plan that could outreach to families living in the area above and surrounding the town's drinking water supply. A proposed law will soon be coming before the board, and the WEC can take serious actions to help protect our drinking water while working with the septic systems of those people involved. I spoke to members of the Complete Streets Committee about their budget needs and about long-range planning for bike paths and for walking trails. Part of that plan could include bike paths and walking trails that connect to the rail trail and in the future to Kingston with the town of Woodstock. Reducing the number of cars coming to Woodstock, reducing the emissions, and increasing access. New Paltz and Rosendale are already on this course with these paths and with these trails. I also spoke to the tree committee and have asked them for plans to move forward with planting over 36 trees along the roadside. There are new trees in 375 in front of the elementary school, and I think that's a great start. I also want to encourage the rest of the town board to join me in demanding that cleanup begins on Church Road. Having read the thoughtful letters from the Church Road neighbors, water and property continues to be affected by construction and demolition contamination. I found that the board passed a cleanup resolution 179A 2020 by a 3-2 vote almost 2 years ago. In the face of inaction, the Environmental Commission in March of 2022 called for the cleanup to begin in a letter to the town board. I am now adding my voice to the neighbors, to those who voted yes for the resolution, and to the WEC. No more delays on the Church Road cleanup. And finally, I want to say, I have listened to and met with families concerned about the wetland destruction and pollution concerns at Terramore development, and we heard from one again today. It is having and it will have an effect on Woodstock. I have also read the Environmental Commission's recommendations specifically to the town board in a letter to join the SECRA process as an interested party. And I urge the town board members concerned about wetlands destruction and pollution and the potential for damage to our environment to join me in requesting that the town of Woodstock be listed as an interested party in the Terramore SECRA. These are just a few of the items that I've been collaborating on, and I look forward to having other town board members and folks in Woodstock join in this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ben, I'll be happy to talk with you and work with you on that, because I've done phone calls on behalf of Karen Moore and have had some involvement there too, so I'm certainly happy to work with you on that.
This may be out of order, but this is a really good segue to what I have to say.
Right, although
It'll just wait though, it'll just wait.
we're getting there, we're getting there soon.
We're getting,
Okay.
We're getting there soon.
we're getting.
Okay, well, I'll go. Reggie says I can go. We're going in order here. So, so for my update, I did want to mention that for Tara Moore, as I just mentioned, I have made phone calls. I have talked to the supervisor of Saugerties. I've talked to somebody in the DEP. It's not governed by them, but he's got a lot of experience in that kind of thing. I've talked to some people at the county level. They really have directed for people who want to fight it through the secret process, because if you can go to the secret process and find what's wrong according to that, that will give people some traction. Just saying, oh, it's terrible, won't give you traction, but pinpointing to the secret process and explaining why different parts of things in secret need to be corrected, that will be what has traction. I'm happy to continue to make phone calls on behalf of whatever, so I know the other gentleman who left, I would tell him if he were here, but he's gone, is I'm happy to make phone calls to any level of government to look for help on it. You know, I know the other group you mentioned, which is now codified, is leading the effort, and that's wonderful. But certainly, you know, people have already reached out to me, and I've already done some homework on it. I'm happy to continue doing homework on the Tara Moore to help whatever effort the group that's leading it is doing. I'm certainly happy to help your row the boat. So let's just mention that there. The second thing that's going on is the water law. The water law, which has, as we last left off a month ago, I mentioned that the water law we had gotten it reviewed by the county. It had previously been reviewed by the Woodstock Planning Board. The Woodstock Planning Board gave their response back in May that said that they approved it. The county said, change the map to add a few more properties, add the properties. What we wanted to protect for the water law, this is the wellhead protection. We wanted to protect. We had a certain map that showed properties that will be following the law. And then the county said, add some other properties, the flood zone properties that are adjoining that. So Judy Kerman did a wonderful job doing the map. Bennett was on the group, Arlene was on the group, where we revised the map, added a paragraph to the law saying, okay, now the protected area includes those properties. So that copy of the law I had submitted to all town board members, you know, at our business meeting last month, and the planning board is well aware of it. Melissa confirmed that yes, their approval letter from May is their approval letter, so we've gotten their approval. We've got the approval from Ulster County Planning Board, and Supervisor McKenna had mentioned to me earlier today that he's planning to set, or was it yesterday? We're meeting a lot lately. Anyway, that he is planning on November 1st to set the public hearing for that for November 22nd. So unless anybody on this board has any issue with what I sent out a month ago, you know, let me know now, because otherwise the supervisor on November 1st does plan to set the public hearing for that law on our meeting November 22nd. And I know I'm delighted, and a lot of people have worked a long time for this, so it's great. The next item is telecommunications law. I've been working that as well. And so what's happening there is we do have a response back from Ulster County. They asked for two minor updates, but the lawyer, Andrew Campanelli, who wrote the law, has given his response back. There are valid reasons why not to do that. We don't have to do, when we get recommendations, we always want to assess them, see if they are the right for us or not. And we actually are not going to be adopting those. The planning board has Andrew Campanelli coming to the meeting day after tomorrow. So I expect we'll get a planning board response after that. And hopefully we'll move the telecommunications law to public hearing. I'd love to see it be before the end of the year, because it would be great to get both the water protection that Bennett talked about that is in this law that, you know, that I've been heavily working, and Bennett's been part of that team, and telecommunications. It'd be wonderful to get those both passed over the next couple of months. Housing Oversight Task Force, which I'm a member of, along with Deborah, and we have a great team there, has been continuing to talk about the different feedback that we got from version 1. Version 1 came out on, discussed on May 31st, officially made available June 1st. So version 2 is coming soon. We don't have a date yet, I don't think, but version 2 is coming soon based on what people said. And my public service announcement is elections are coming up. It's a bipartisan statement, Remember, election day is November 8th. Early voting, as usual, will be, there's a Saturday to a Sunday 9-day period that ends. Sunday would be 2 days before election day. Early voting, before we have our next meeting, early voting will have already started. If you saw the list of positions, I forget how many, what the number is, but we have federal positions, we have state positions, we have local positions, we have judge positions. There's a lot on the ballot. So if you can get to go to the Board of Elections, you might be able to see a ballot and see who all your choices are so you can investigate, because it's very important. this year.
And there's a ballot initiative.
Yeah, I was gonna say, turn over the ballot.
So you can
The,
take a peek at the ballot.
well, no, there's
It's a ballot initiative.
it's a ballot initiative. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And democracy, I've said it before, I'll say it again, democracy works best when everybody votes, because then you really know what the people wanted, and that's what's most important in this country. With that, Reggie.
I'll be quick. CSAC is having a stone and trim day on Saturday, October 22nd at 11 a.m. with the rain date of Sunday, October 23rd. They're going to be moving deeper into the trail and stones, and also working on the meadow path, and also trimming some foliage around the parking lot and the East Trail entrance. So they will be happy to welcome volunteers. All you need to bring is yourself and hopefully a strong back
And enthusiasm.
and enthusiasm, yes. And all supplies are going to be at the site. So that's Saturday, the 22nd.
Thank you.
That's it.
I have one more thing,
Go ahead.
and it's probably the most important thing. Halloween.
Oh, Maria, tell us about Halloween. Is there a parade?
Our arts nonprofit, The Secret City, and I team up each year now, and we're co-producing along with the chamber. So Monday, October 31st, we're actually gonna have a little mini parade kicking off the festivities, going up to the Village Green. So it'll be a little bit different, a little bit longer of festivities. And we're gonna have the Rock Academy Drumline joining us,
Cool.
as well as CCE Energy Dancers. They're gonna do the flash mob again, the Michael
Yay.
Jackson flash mob. We're gonna have kids, custom contests. There's just lots going on. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So
And it starts, what time should people be there?
well, so we're gonna, I think they're gonna close the roads at 4:30. We're gonna wait for the 5 o'clock bus to come through town. And then we can kick off a mini parade coming into the Village Green. So as long as everyone's, starts to assemble around, starting at 4:30, that should be good. But it'll be a lot of fun, and it's just a wonderful tradition, so.
Yeah.
it
Well,
brings
and
a lot
thank you for mentioning that, because that's one of the things I'm excited about, to be a Woodstocker. I tell people Woodstock closes the roads down 3 times a year, Memorial Day, Halloween, and Christmas Eve. And it's a very special thing that Woodstock does. So Halloween coming up.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you. I'm gonna turn it back to public be heard, and I'll take you in a sec. I do want to ask Jackie, Jackie, anyway, that's okay. So we'll take public be heard from the room.
Here she is.
Oh, there we go. So Jackie, do you have people that signed up for public be heard?
I do not. I think you need to take the first 5 people and go.
Okay, so we're taking people from the room here because there's nobody on Zoom.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. I did sign up on Zoom and got a confirmation that I was going to be heard.
Okay, so Michael, so you're.
I'm on Zoom also. Hello.
Okay, this is
I
Eileen
also got a
Pacola. Okay.
confirmation. Yep.
Okay, I'm just getting the numbers here. So we did 2, but we normally do 5 altogether, but we're gonna do 5 now. So anybody else on Zoom? Okay, how many in the room, if you could raise a hand? Oh, we have 500. There was no sheet of paper here though, right? Nobody probably signed up. So I know Aaron, I see you.
Richard.
Richard, you're Richard, okay.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah?
Jackie, I have to sign off. Just let me know what 5 people spoke. I don't need to know any details, just what they spoke regarding. Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, but you're not getting rid of Zoom. Zoom is still continuing, correct?
No, I don't have any control over the Zoom, so it's still continuing. But just to let you know, the only thing I do with public hearing is say who spoke and regarding what. That's it.
Okay, but we're not going to lose Zoom when you go, so we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, well, we'll do Zoom first, and then we'll do the room. Perfect, okay, so everybody gets 2 minutes. So we'll do Michael first. Michael, you're on mute. We're waiting.
All right, whoops, waiting for the room to quiet down. All right, start my time. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I wanted to talk in regards to the short-term rental issue as it relates to the housing affordability presentation that Kai made. That was very interesting. I'm a member of the Woodstock Short-Term Rental Association, and we represent mostly part-time residents with long-standing ties to the community. I've owned my home since 2004, raised my kids here as much as we can. And we are in favor of housing affordability, including housing affordability for our own part-time residences, because we love the community and want to stay part of it and not be forced to abandon our homes because we need the rental income to help offset maintenance costs. The problem with what's been happening with the proposal for short-term rentals and the existing short-term rentals laws is it lumps everything together under the label short-term rentals that are really very separate things. As the presentation made clear, one of the goals of housing affordability is to make accessory dwelling units, the ADUs, available for short-term rentals. I mean, available for permanent long-term rentals. That really should be the focus of what the short-term rental regulations are. As it is now, it's turned on its head. The proposed regulations.
You have 30 seconds. 30
the
seconds.
proposed regulations give many more permits and much cheaper permitting fees to the accessory dwelling units called owner occupied, while houses such as our members, which are single family homes that would probably never be affordable rental units. If we need to sell, these would be sold to wealthy, hedge fund bros who can afford a second home without renting it out, no connection to the town, no income to the town. And finally, the permitting fees for short-term rentals, if made realistic, much more expensive than they are now, could be a substantial income stream for creating,
Okay, we're
affordable
done
housing.
we're done the 2 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. I would love to have more dialogue with members of the board. I don't think we've talked to Reggie or Laura for a long time about this. I'd be happy to reach out, and we've been very frustrated in trying to share our expertise and knowledge about this issue. We're very long-term renters who know a lot about short-term rentals, and I think.
Okay, yeah, Michael, you're going into, I'm trying to cover as many people as I can today, so we got to keep to the 2 minutes, but thank you very much, and I'm willing to talk more about these things. So Eileen, we'll do you next, Eileen.
Can you alternate between Zoom and people?
Okay.
Well, I'm afraid we're gonna lose Zoom, and I'll do you guys. I'm planning to do, I think we have a bunch, but I'm gonna try to do everybody actually. So Eileen, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Eileen Capola. I'm also here to comment on the STR policy for the town. And I've been working with the association as well. I own the property at 1 Vandale Road, which is the old Xena Church up the hill off of Xena Road. And I do understand and support the need to have this conversation, to have town oversight of STRs for a whole variety of reasons, which we don't have time to go into for 2 minutes, with 2 minutes. But I do feel like the policy discussion has resolved quite a bit around the assumption that owners of properties who are renting out short-term rentals tend to be business people who are just in it for the investment. And I wanted to share my story because it's very different. I bought my beautiful property. I use it frequently for myself and family, and I intend to retire in Woodstock. I already feel part of the community. In fact, I applied to be the Onteora superintendent, and had I been offered that position, I'd be living up there now. So I'm very invested and committed to Woodstock, but I do need the income from the short-term rental to maintain, the home at this time. I live in Brooklyn currently, and I work for the New York City Department of Education. And being an educator, I couldn't afford to buy a very good place in New York City. And so I began to look upstate and, discovered lovely communities up there. I feel like we contribute a lot to the community. My property is historic. It was the Xena Dutch Reformed Church built in 1914. So by maintaining it and upgrading it, I contribute to the community's cultural history. I've been, working with a lot of the really great contractors around.
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Maintenance, yeah. And I also think that STRs are part of the fabric of the town because they draw many visitors who partake of the businesses, the restaurants, the shops, et cetera. So I urge you to consider nuanced policies that would effectively distinguish community members from investors and provide a transparent system for applications that feels fair to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. I'm going to reset. So if those who want to speak, if you could kind of form a line, and if we have a manageable number, I'll get you all.
We're just gonna stand in line over here.
I'm sorry.
Say your name and then we're ready.
Oh, I guess so. It's just like that way I get an idea of how many people we have. That's kind of what I was hoping, was get an idea of how many people we have.
I didn't sign up for the treatment, but at the end, I was just a very short question on process. Can I do that when everybody has spoken?
Yeah, yes, yes, you can. Okay.
It's just so I don't need 30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, and your first and last name?
Richard Buck.
Richard Buck. Okay, I'm trying to write quickly. Richard, B-U-C-K?
Right.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Go ahead, please.
Okay, a lot has been said about term work, the subject is term work. I know that folks have talked to you about the WBC and I'm grateful, we're all grateful for your support. Tonight, I'm here to bring something to your attention, and that is the nightmare that's gonna happen with traffic.
Right.
There's 25,000 estimated potential 25,000 cars gonna be coming between May and November. That's gonna impact all the intersections between Schultz's Corners, which has an accident rate of 5 times the New York average. All right, and all along, just imagine anywhere you pull on. I mean, I'll just read from you here. It's 25,000 because it's going to affect the intersections and traffic volume. Overlook Mountain is going to be right up the street. It's going to affect Glasgow. It's going to affect Meads Mountain Road. It's also going to be, I mean, Plockman is going to be, everybody loves to walk down Plockman, walk their dogs, ride their bikes, whatever. Plockman is going to be a major alternative route. Okay, especially among locals. And that's just going to ruin that neighborhood. And it's going to be, there's also going to be the Woodstock Jewish congregation is right there. The Woodstock Day School is right there. The Woodville Green, which is going to be seeing, bridge issues in the next couple of years, is going to be overwhelmed. There will be no choice but to have a traffic cop there next year, or God forbid, a traffic light. It's just going to it's going to ravage the community. And moreover, and just as important.
30 seconds.
Okay, I'm almost done. The other thing, it's going to dramatically impact property values. Okay, there could be millions of dollars lost to local residents. And I know that Woodstock is reluctant to get involved because it's a quote unquote Saugerties problem. This is not a Saugerties problem. This is a Woodstock problem. And I really appreciate all the support that the board can give us in our efforts to stop this. This just does not belong here.
If I can just ask you, are you part of the group that the other gentleman?
Yes, Citizens Against Term.
Okay. Because I would like a way to if you would want to write your phone number on here.
Sure.
I would love to get with you and.
Sure. We welcome that.
Okay, because I definitely want to follow up, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Erin, I know your name. Yay. I can't even spell it. So thank you. And you're on.
I have handouts because I've sent most of you this information before, but I know that you get a lot of emails. So there you go again. Basically, I'm here as a resident as well as on behalf of the WAC. Excuse me. On October 27, 2020, the town board at that time passed a resolution to move forward with the situation at 10 Church Road. Bennett, you were not on the board. I've been trying to bring you up to speed. I know there's a lot of documentation. Mary Elena, you were a deputy supervisor at the time. You guys voted for this. Laura, I know you voted against it. Reggie, you voted for it. Unfortunately, Bill's not here. I'm here to ask you guys to move forward. A lot of the forward movement has been, for lack of a better word, just stopped by Bill, delayed. I mean, it's been 2 years and we've been told we're going to get a plan. There's a plan along the way. The plans that are submitted do not rise to the level of what has been asked for by the building department. I've also given you an extra copy of that from the building department. The Amy's are here tonight. Their water is no longer safe to drink, guys. That's where we are. This water is going to go down into the soil, the soil. It's going to leach. And also, I would just like to say that the plans that are being put before you are Vince is going to hire someone to sift through the dirt and take out the bad stuff. You can't see arsenic, asbestos, heavy metals. You can't see that with your eye, number one. Number two, you're going to actually do a ridiculously, insultingly poor job like that, and at least have a qualified person, an environmental specialist, not anyone on this board, not Bill, who has taken soil samples himself to the DEC that came back surprisingly clean,
Okay,
even
you
though.
are passed.
All right, that's fine. That's what I'm here to implore you guys to do, to please act as you said you would in October of 2020, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the resolution will be giving you, the WEC will be giving you a resolution also.
Thank you. Okay, and your name?
I'm John Conrad.
John Conrad, C-O-N-R-A-D?
Yes,
Thank you, John. You're on.
thank you. I'm John Conrad. I am an environmental consultant. I've been brought on board by Frank and Pam Eby, who live next door to the 10 Church Street dump. And so I just want to echo some things that Aaron just said and what Councilman Brett mentioned earlier in this meeting. The resolution that Aaron mentioned was passed about 2 years ago. And it had two important elements. One of those was to periodically test the Amy well on a quarterly basis. Because they live right next door to the dump, I think it's obvious why that's important to do. We need to understand whether their well has been impacted and at the earliest possible time. And that testing program was supposed to do that. Part of that resolution was to test the fill material itself in the dump. And for similar reasons, I think it's obvious why you would want to do that. You want to characterize what's in there, what contaminants are present, what might be getting into groundwater, and the Amy's well. And so there's been some sort of a disconnect because that work has not been done in these 2 years. And I'm interested in why that is. You don't have to tell me tonight, but I would like to understand, is there confusion or misunderstanding about why that work has not yet been done?
Okay, have you spoken to supervisor?
I have.
Okay.
But I don't have an answer. So the last thing I want to mention is that the cleanup itself really does need to go forward. We need to end the delays, but it's not going to go forward without a plan. And let me suggest to the board, and I've written to you about this in the last few weeks, that if you focus on that first step, and that is coming up with a plan, I think that would be a really strong step forward. It's a big, I mean, I think to a lot of people, it's a big, complicated problem that you're having a hard time figuring out.
And you're in your 30 seconds.
How to get started. And I think the first step ought to be the board, maybe through a resolution, but somehow taking the step of bringing on board whatever professional help you need and forming a plan to do that cleanup. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And your name?
My name is Emma. My last name is Lee.
I'm sorry, A-E-M-M-A, Lee?
Lee, L-E-I-G-H.
L-E-I-G-H. Thank you, Emma.
So I'm here to talk with you today. I was born in Catskill. I came home from the hospital to a residence in Woodstock. So I am like born and raised. I moved out of the area. I was living in a cabin on top of Ohio for $550 a month in 2014. Wow, have things changed? There are 8 places for rent right now on Trulia in the town of Woodstock. The cheapest one is like $16.50 and it's like a basement apartment. There's also one that's a 2-bedroom that's like $22.50, probably with utilities, you're looking at like $2,500 a month, maybe a little. So that's $30,000 a year. If we're talking 30% of your income, I'm needing to make what, like 90 grand a year to be able to afford that 2-bedroom apartment. I know that you know this, but this is really alarming and very disturbing to me. And it's really sad to then go on Airbnb and see that there are 300 homes available in Woodstock. So I really, excuse me, I'm overwhelmed because I've always imagined myself coming back to this community, putting down roots here. Like, I wasn't away that long because I come back intermittently, right? Like 2014, I'd already graduated from school and come back home, and I love it here. I feel so deeply connected to the land here. It has made my body, literally, I drank this water my whole life. So to come back here and not be able to come back into my community is heartbreaking to me. I'm living and working right now at Menla.
And we got 30 seconds.
Thank you. I'm living and working right now at Menla in the kitchen as a prep chef and dishwasher. I'm an educator. I went to school for childhood education, special ed, certified grades 1 through 6, but I can't find anywhere to live, right? And I've been teaching in the arts for over 20 years. We're a community of artists. But if the artists and the educators can't find anywhere to live, the soul of our town will die. So I really appreciate the work you guys are doing in affordable housing because it is a true crisis and it is so important. So thank you.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.
And Urena.
Hi, I'm Urena Kinlan.
Thank you.
Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of reiterate, I already had something to say earlier, but we're in a crisis, as you know, and we need to kind of think of this as really important, top priority, and keep moving. And when I hear folks talk about short-term rentals like it's a necessity and a need, and yet they're talking about non-owner occupied, second home owned. There's people here that don't even have a first home. They don't have a first place to live. And they were raised here, grew up here, many generations here. But maybe they didn't have enough money or inherited land here. And they didn't come from somewhere else necessarily and have co-opted it here. There's people here that have been pushed out. And I think 300, almost 300, I think it's 295 short-term rentals that are permitted, that are legal. We all know that there's more going on totally legally through loopholing. And I just think that we have to kind of be real here and think about people need their first home to live in. And to raise the cap, I think it's just crazy. We have a crisis. We've been sitting here talking about trying to get some of the ARPA funds to help start a bunch of programs because there is no silver bullet. It's not just the short-term rental. And as Kai Farmer, who was here and did a whole presentation, all of those things together are solutions to the problem, but we need to work on all of them. So I'm ready to think about those things and to kind of not kick the can. It's in haste. It needs to happen now. We need to work on that stuff now and to kind of maybe get along a little bit better so that we can get things done. It's been 10 months and we talked about this last year. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and I'll stay after for your question.
Are you ready?
Oh, do you want, yeah, you had a question, you said.
I do, it's very, very short. May I speak? Yes.
Well, are you publicly heard?
No, because I'm not saying an opinion. I just wanted to ask a process.
Okay, well, ask your process question.
My process question, it's not visible on the website. What is the process that determines what the zoning revision committee will be working on at a given time?
Okay, I'm the chair. Let's talk afterwards.
Okay.
I don't want to hold everybody up. Anything else from the board before we adjourn? I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
So Maria Elena, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.